Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, all subscribers, viewers, and supporters of this channel. ISO 14001 version 2015. What is it? Environmental Management System with international standards. What is it about? It is about managing environmental aspects. How? By fulfilling compliance obligation. What else? And addressing risk and opportunity. So that is the requirement of ISO 14001 version 2015 for an environmental management system, managing environmental aspect. But what is environmental aspect? Environmental aspects, as per 14001, ISO 14001 version 2015 states that environmental aspect is element of our organization, etc. It is a thing that interacts and can interact with the environment. That's from my summarized understanding of what environmental aspects is about. So environmental management system is about managing environmental aspect. So we have to identify what are the list of environmental aspects in our organization before or as we establish our ISO 14001 version 2015. How to identify? This is why we are here. Input, output analysis of all our unit processes from all sectors, from all departments of our organization. This is what we're going to do. So, before we go on, please, I implore my fellow Muslim brothers and sisters, please do not watch this video if you are in a mosque for the Friday prayers or attending religious lessons with a scholar. Thank you very much for your cooperation. I wish you blessings from the Almighty with Jannatul Naim. Thank you very much. Love you for that. Now, we are going to have an example of the input-output analysis using one of quite a common facility industrial effluent treatment system. Now, before that, I will show you where this input-output is situated, which step of the entire chronology of the implementation of Environmental Management System ISO 14001. Where is input output? And then we'll look into the input output analysis of this system, industrial effluent treatment system, and then I will show you the dashboard. The results of input output analysis in a table displayed before you in a systematic tabulated manner as a dashboard for the convenience of your managing environmental management system ISO 14001 version 2015. Okay, so let's take a look. Where is it positioned in the chronology of the ISO 14001? This is summarized steps which is needed, some of the elements, items that is needed in the early part of the implementation of ISO 14001. The context of the organization is really administrative in nature. All right, administrative and legislative. Okay, look, as far as the identification of environmental aspects before in order for us to embark in the environmental management system, the process of input output analysis where environmental aspect is being identified is among the earliest. If you ask me, I would say this is the first thing that we should do to identify our environmental aspects from our organization in order for us to understand what are our obligations, what is needed upon our company as far as environmental management is concerned. So it's there. On top of that, or after we have done the input-output analysis of all processes of all departments in our organization within the scope of the certification, what we do is evaluation. We have to evaluate to determine from those environmental aspects that we have identified which are significant ones, which are having significant environmental impact, which call for our immediate or most serious attention. Okay, that is significant, and how to determine that we have got what we call aspects impact evaluation technique. I will show you in the dashboard later. On top of that, we have got to identify what are risks and opportunities that we could address while having this environmental management system. Then we will have all this in a tabulated representation, what we would call aspects impact register. I call it the dashboard. And from this register, we will develop our environmental policy. So it's important for us to know what sort of environmental aspects and their associated probable environmental impacts is involved in our organization prior developing a policy. Once that is known, only then we develop the policy, and then after we know our position as far as our commitment for environmental management is concerned, we lay down the list of objectives. We've got to sit with the top management. You got to decide what you want to achieve. What are your environmental objectives based on your position in environmental management as it is already listed in your aspects impact register. So the policy comes in. This is what we want to arrive to. And in order to achieve the policy, we must have some planning actions. We need to have who do what, when, and how, and what are the resources, probably finance, probably man-hour, probably equipment. That is in the EMP. And then all this will constitute what we call under the ISO 14001 version 2015 intended outcome. Nonetheless, the objectives is set, the planning actions or the environmental management program is set. We got to remember, all this has got to be in line with the intended outcome. It must complement intended outcome by virtue of the fact that intended outcome, somewhere in our objective, okay, we have to include enhancement of our environmental performance. It has to include upgrading of our level of environmental achievement. Our level of environmental management has got to be improved, continual improvement. And we got to ensure that in our objective, we are able to fulfill all compliance obligation with authorities, with the agencies, with the suppliers, with the contractors, with our subcontractors, with all other interested parties that we are obliged to comply. And two-way, them complying to you, you complying to them. That's the obligation. And also achieving the objective is a must in our intended outcome. Achieving the objective is. So we have got to be careful when we set the objective. We've got to make sure that it is something that we could achieve. or we have to deploy certain additional efforts. It could be material, it could be our resources, it could be manpower in whatever manner to achieve the objective. So therefore, we got to make sure when we set the objective, it has got to be real. Okay, so let us go now into looking at the input-output analysis. For this particular example, I have before you the industrial effluent treatment system. It is quite common in this country. So we'll take a look what is the input output environmental aspects. Now environmental aspects, as you know, they are interacting or interacts with the environment. So let me explain to you maybe one or two examples from here. Look, what comes into this particular effluent treatment system is raw effluent. There you are. Is raw effluent an environmental aspect? Yes, of course it is. Everybody says that. Why? Since it is an input environmental aspect, we will have to look at its downstream of its life cycle and determine what would be the associated environmental impact. In other words, raw effluent interacts the formation of raw effluent, because raw effluent is input. So we got to look upstream. How is it formed? The formation of raw effluent has interacted with an environment and has caused some kind of environmental impact. What is it? So raw effluent comes from raw mat processes, remember? There's a lot of phases of interaction, one after another, series of processes. Eventually, it comes from raw material. And what are raw material? Often than not, they are all originating from natural resources, chemicals probably, organics, inorganics. These are all natural resources, and therefore the more need for these materials, the more will be extracted from natural resources, especially chemicals, metals, etc. And it becomes effluent in this process, okay? And therefore, what is the environmental impact? Natural resource depletion. So the raw effluent is an environmental aspect because upstream is its interaction with the environment causing what is known as resource depletion as the environmental impact. On the other hand, the output from this treatment system is treated effluent. Less COD, but still having COD is chemical oxygen demand, as you know, if you're a competent person or involved in IETS or wastewater treatment plant, you know this much better than I do. Or a higher level of BOD, biochemical oxygen demand, suspended solid, trace inorganics, probably salts, okay, and the trace inorganics could be mercury, arsenic, chromium, copper, nickel, tin, zinc, depending on the type of industry that we are dealing with. So these are all environmental aspects, but output. Therefore, what is its environmental impact? In order to determine the environmental impact of treated effluent, we get to its, since it is an output aspect, so we get to the downstream of its life cycle. So we are looking at it from the life cycle perspective. Therefore, what happened to treated effluent? Then that will begin. That is the beginning of its downstream life cycle. What happened to it? It is being discharged into the monsoon drain, into the ditches, into the river. And normally it will interact with the environment, and most of us would use the word water pollution as it enters river. But I have another concern. The hydrological cycle on this planet Earth is off balance. The way I look at it, we are getting water normally from aquifer or from river in one place and treat it and pump it for human use in other areas and even in industrial areas, which uses a lot more water. And those waters which is being treated out from a sewage treatment plant or from an industrial effluent treatment plant would be sent out elsewhere, not from the river that it was taken from. So this one goes into another river probably and causes some upset to the hydrological cycle of the river, the retention time, the volumetric flow of the river has changed because of additional water. I'm just thinking about it. Get the experts to look into it. I just had a few experience with a few experts before this, and I'm still reading journals about it. And you know, imbalance of the water cycle. That's about one of the environmental impact, but commonly people are putting it as water pollution. So there are other environmental aspects like coagulants. These are from usually from petrochemical industry. It comes from oil and gas, of course fossil fuel, and it is amounting to an impact known as resource depletion. If you look carefully, most of our processes, activities are all using resources. The more human population, the more resources we need. Don't you think it's about time that we get to use waste as some form of resources now? Because the demand for natural resources is so great now that it is getting more expensive and it is depleting, most importantly. And there are some inorganic sludge containing some residue of coagulant as output from this one and would interact with the environment and cause soil pollution as it is being sent to some prescribed premises for its disposal in a secure landfill probably. But don't you think it's about time we can convert sludge into reusable processes or renewed product? Think about it. So those are other environmental aspects, just a number of them as an example for this explanation. Please refer to your respective trainer and consultant who have got a good knowledge and be able to guide you along this. This is the first thing that we have to do in order for us to begin implementing environmental management system ISO 14001. This is the first work, homework, task, assignment. Without this, we don't have the environmental aspects. We don't know our environmental aspects. When we do not know our environmental aspects, what is there to manage? All right, let's get into the dashboard as I promised you. So, if we have the dashboard for our vehicles, for our car, our bikes, etc., don't you think we need a dashboard for our environmental management system in order for us to gauge and follow and understand the performance of our overall environmental management system? We need to know how are we performing. Therefore, I come up with this dashboard. Of course, I learned from somebody else before that, and we worked together. When we come up with this, he showed me some parts of it. I expanded it to this format. It was way back in 1996, a long time ago. Now, in this dashboard, importantly, we have got to make sure that we have the name of the activity, the process there. I'm sorry, this is not coal crushing here. This is industrial effluent treatment plant. Please change this. I have not changed this template. Okay. And what we have here is an industrial effluent treatment plant. Please correct that. What we have here, aspects from this IETS are treated effluent. These are environmental aspects. And this is impact associated to it because we have done the input-output analysis. And for each aspect, we've got to evaluate for what we call it environmental aspects impact evaluation. And this is where it is. We have our impact criteria and rating. This is the aspects impact evaluation. All right, over there in the dashboard. And we have risk to all these environmental aspects and their associated processes listed down. And we got to write something there. What are the risks involved? For example, treated effluent, the impact is hydrological imbalance. What is the risk? We are wasting water. Cleaner water is being discharged out. What for? Don't you think we should reuse the water? So we have recycling. And we have also what is called environmental performance barometer, literally, or tachometer, you can call it, over here. So we have got the MPI representing Management Performance Index, OPI representing Operational Performance Index, and ECI representing Environmental Condition Index. And then the overall environmental performance is right here in front of us, before our eyes, all displayed in the dashboard. This is what we have been doing for all the years. Please excuse me for the name of the activity which is wrong. Please correct it and remind ourselves it is about industrial effluent treatment plant. Sorry about that. So this is what we have, the dashboard right in front of us. This is what we present in management review. This is what we present during external audit or even internal corporate audit to show them where we are. And please remember, this dashboard is dynamic. We have got to review our environmental aspects maybe twice a year or 4 times a year, up to you, to look into the performance. The more frequent the evaluation is done, the better, the more accurate, the more current that we are able to understand the performance of our environmental management system. Remember, performance is part of the intended outcome, other than compliance obligation and achieving targets and objectives. Got it? Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, subscribers, viewers, and also supporters of this channel. Please consult your respective consultant and trainer about this. And please excuse me for that mistake. I believe that's about it. I hope you have understood what is environmental management system. It's about managing environmental aspects. How? By fulfilling compliance obligation and addressing risks and opportunities. And what is environmental aspect? It interacts and can interact with the environment. Thank you very much. As a Malay, I wish everybody semoga dikurniakan kesenangan, keselamatan, kesejahteraan, kebahagiaan di dunia dan di akhirat. And until we meet in the next video, as a Muslim, I wish everybody, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever faith, whatever color, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.